What if I told you the person who hurt you the most remembers every single detail of what they did to you? Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But here's what Jung didn't tell you in that famous quote. And what I'm about to reveal will shatter every assumption you've made about people who refuse to acknowledge their wrongdoing. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some people can sleep peacefully at night while you're still awake, replaying every word, every moment, every look of pain that crossed your face when they betrayed you. Let me start with a truth that will make your blood run cold. They remember everything. That person who shattered your trust, who left you questioning your own reality, remembers every single detail. Every word they said, every promise they broke, every moment they watched you crumble. Carl Jung discovered, through decades of clinical work, that we all carry what he called the shadow self, the parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge. The more we suppress these uncomfortable truths, the more power they gain over us. But here's where it gets interesting. The people who hurt you aren't suffering from memory loss, they're suffering from something far more calculated, what Jung called shadow projection, the unconscious act of denying their own darkness by making you carry it instead. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what happens when one person refuses to be transformed, when they choose comfort over consciousness? They don't just forget, they actively choose to forget, because remembering would require genuine accountability, and accountability demands the most terrifying thing of all, authentic change." Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." These people have built their entire identity around never facing that terror. They've constructed elaborate psychological defenses to avoid the very thing that would set them free. What are they addicted to instead? Comfort, ego protection, denial, wrapped in phrases like, "I don't remember it that way," or "You're being too sensitive." Jung discovered that the human psyche will go to extraordinary lengths to protect its self-image. He called this the persona, the mask we wear to hide our true nature from others and ourselves. When someone hurts you and acts like it never happened, they're maintaining what Jung called the provisional life, a psychological state where someone avoids becoming who they truly are by staying perpetually comfortable, perpetually justified, perpetually innocent. Jung taught, "What you resist persists." But he discovered something more disturbing. Some people have mastered making their resistance look like your problem. When someone hurts you and acts like nothing happened, they're actively destabilizing you. They're making you question your memory, your reaction, and your entire emotional reality. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Stop right there. According to Jung's work on psychological manipulation, this is exactly what happens when someone's shadow self encounters accountability. They don't respond with remorse. They respond with deflection. They don't take responsibility. They transfer it. They don't heal the wound. They make you question if you're bleeding. Jung referred to this phenomenon as psychological projection, but it extends even deeper into what modern psychology recognizes as gaslighting, making you doubt your perception of reality to protect theirs. Jung discovered something profound. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But some people discovered something more powerful, the privilege of never becoming anything by mastering strategic silence. Their silence isn't accidental. It's not passive. It's a weapon. When someone hurts you and disappears into silence, that silence isn't emptiness, it's power. Jung understood that silence shifts the burden of confusion onto the person already hurting. Think about it. When they say nothing, you start saying everything, replaying conversations, over-explaining feelings, questioning reactions, hoping for responses that never come, analyzing every word and gesture, looking for remorse that isn't there. That's not an accident, that's the strategy. Jung wrote, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." But these people built their identity on looking outside, projecting their shadow onto you, making you carry their unprocessed guilt while they walk away unscathed. Jung discovered that strategic silence creates psychological dependency. The more someone withholds the response you need, the more desperate you become for acknowledgement. That desperation serves their needs perfectly. It puts you in the position of chasing them, softening boundaries, backing down from the truth just to get any response. It makes you grateful for scraps from the person who should be begging for forgiveness. According to Jung's work on the collective unconscious, we share archetypal patterns. One of the most destructive is the innocent archetype, the part of the psyche that refuses to acknowledge its capacity for harm. And some people don't just access this occasionally, they live there permanently. They've made innocence their entire identity, which means they can never be wrong. Jung discovered that people who consistently avoid responsibility have developed unconscious competence in emotional manipulation. They've mastered hurting others while protecting themselves from consequences. These individuals operate from what Jung called psychological inflation, where the ego becomes so enlarged it can't tolerate information contradicting its self-image. When you ask for accountability from someone in this state, you're not just asking for an apology, you're asking them to deflate their entire sense of self. That's why they can't do it. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." These people haven't made their destructive patterns conscious. They've made them systematic and devastatingly effective. Jung studied psychological complexes, autonomous clusters of thoughts and feelings operating independently of conscious control. People who avoid accountability have developed dissociative competence. They separate their actions from identity so completely that they genuinely believe they're not responsible for the harm they cause. It's not that they don't remember hurting you, they've convinced themselves they had no choice, that you forced their hand, that they were the real victim. Jung wrote, "The most dangerous thing is to live in a world of projections. These people created an entire reality where they're always right, always justified, always misunderstood." Jung discovered that guilt, when processed healthily, is actually guidance, the part of our psyche saying, "Something I did hurt someone I care about and I need to make it right." He called this the moral function of the unconscious. But people lacking emotional maturity don't see guilt as guidance. They see it as an attack, a threat to their existence. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." These people chose the opposite path. They keep their darkness unconscious by making you carry it instead. When you ask for accountability from someone who built their identity around avoiding responsibility, you're asking them to dismantle their entire psychological structure. People in this state don't hear your pain as information. They hear it as an attack. Your request for understanding becomes their call to battle. Your vulnerability becomes their weakness to exploit. Jung understood that not everyone operates at the same level of emotional development. Some people hit their emotional ceiling long before reaching honesty. They'll give you excuses, silence, and distraction, but they won't give you genuine acknowledgement. The apology you never got isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their ceiling, their emotional range, maxed out before reaching accountability. Jung discovered that real apologies require psychological integration, the ability to hold both light and shadow, good intentions and harmful actions. Not everyone has developed this integration. Here's the most liberating truth Jung discovered about difficult people. You cannot make unconscious people conscious. You cannot force someone to see what they're determined to ignore. You cannot love someone into emotional maturity if they're committed to staying immature. The most radical act of self-love is accepting that some people will never change. Thank you for staying with me throughout this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Thanks for watching.